निवासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते.
Hi guys, I have a confession to make. You all must have seen my video of unboxing the Brahma Purana, but I had no expectations of finding anything brilliantly interesting or something. I did not know what it was about. I had no idea what it talks about. I just knew it's a great ancient book of Indian wisdom, culture, history, etc. And it has some beautiful artwork, and it's translated by Bibek Debroy. So I thought, let's just check it out for no apparent reason. And after reading about 20-30 pages of just lineages, now it has gotten to mind-boggling geographical descriptions of what might have been the original Akhand Bharat, or to be more precise, the Hindu civilization, the extent of it, its boundaries, etc. And see what I found in this particular chapter. It's called chapter 1 verse 16. That's how it must have been in the original Sanskrit texts. This chapter is about description of dvipas. The premise is Rishi Lomaharshana is addressing a bunch of other sages and rishis, having this sort of a meeting in a forest in Uttar Pradesh, and there they are now discussing the geography of India. The sages said, "You have recited an extremely great account about the descendants of the Bharata lineage, of all the kings, gods, Danavas, Gandharvas, Uragas, Rakshasas, Daityas, Siddhas and Guhyakas, of their extraordinary deeds, valor and determination of dharma. There are supreme, divine and diverse accounts of their births. O immensely intelligent one," meaning Lomaharshana, "you have properly described Prajapati's creation to us, and about how everything in this wonderful universe, mobile and immobile, originated all the Prajapatis, Guhyakas and Apsaras. O immensely fortunate one, you have recited and we have heard this wonderful account. This ancient account articulated in melodious words brings auspicious fruits. It is pleasant to the mind and to the ears. Indeed, this pleasant account is revered as Amrita. We now wish to hear about the entire globe of the earth. O one who knows everything, we have a great curiosity and you should describe it to us. O immensely intelligent one, right up to the frontiers of the ocean, what are the dvipas, varshas, mountains, forests, rivers and regions sacred to gods and others? What are their dimensions? What are their foundations and natures? What is the earth established on? You should speak to us about this." Lomaharshana replied, "O sages, listen, I will tell you about this briefly. Even if I speak for 100 years, I am incapable of describing it in detail. O Brahmanas, the dvipas are Jambu, Plaksha, Shalmala, Kusha, Kroncha, Shaka and Pushkara as the seventh. Each of these 7 dvipas is surrounded by 7 oceans: Lavana, Ikshu, Sura, Sarpi, Dadhi, Dugdha and Jala. O Indras among Brahmanas, Jambu Dvipa is located right in the middle of these, and in its center is Meru, the golden mountain. Its height is 84,000 yojanas. 16,000 yojanas penetrate inside the earth. The breadth at the top is 32,000 yojanas, and at the base it is 16,000 yojanas in every direction. The earth is like a lotus, and the mountain is established like its pericarp. Himalayas, Hemakuta, Nishada are Varsha mountains to the south, and Nila, Shweta and Shringi are Varsha mountains to the south. The 2 great mountains in the center are each 100,000 yojanas long. Each mountain is progressively 10,000 yojanas shorter than the preceding one. जितना आगे आ रहा है उतना कम होता जा रहा है. All the mountains are 2,000 yojanas high and broad. O Brahmanas, Bharata is said to be the first Varsha, and Kimpurusha is the one that comes next. Harivarsha is to the south of Meru, Ramyaka is to the north, and Hiranmaya is next to it. O Supreme Brahmanas, Uttar Kuru is like Bharata. Each of these extends for 9,000 yojanas. Ilavrita is in the center, and the golden mountain of Meru rises up there. O immensely fortunate ones, in 4 directions from Meru, Ilavrita extends for 9,000 yojanas. There are 4 mountains, each 10,000 yojanas high, which exist like supporting pillars for Meru. The one to the east is named Mandara. The one to the south is Gandhamadana. Now where is Gandhamadana? According to the research that has been done so far, Gandhamadana is today known as the Valley of Flowers in Uttarakhand. So let's just say they are right. Based on that, अब आगे सुनते हैं कि क्या कहा गया है. तो if to the south is Gandhamadana, which is Uttarakhand, now keeping that reference point in mind, imagine the rest of the map, okay? The one to the west is Vipula and the one to the north is Suparshva. So it has to be in the Mongolia, China region. Mandara is to the east of Gandhamadana. A Kadamba tree, a Jambu tree, a Pippala tree in Vipula and a Vata tree rise like standards in these mountains. Each of these mountains stretches for 1100 yojanas. O supreme among Brahmanas, Jambudvipa is so named because of the Jambu tree. The fruit of the Jambu tree is as large as a huge elephant. It falls from the summit, on the ground in all directions and is shattered. The flow of that juice is known as river Jambu. So you see how Jammu got its name, and the people who reside there drink it. So Kashmir has never been an integral part of India, but Jambudvipa gives the name Jammu. Therefore they do not perspire, the people who drink the juices of the Jambu fall or the Jambu fruit. Therefore they do not perspire or suffer from bad odor in their bodies. They do not suffer from old age or the decay of the senses. Having drunk it, people who are born there do not suffer from any mental ailments. The juice, which is like Amrita, we'll get to the interesting geographical descriptions again. The juice, which is like Amrita, reaches the banks and, dried up by the pleasant wind that blows, becomes the gold known as Jambunada. This is used to make ornaments for the Siddhas. Bhadrashva is to the east of Meru and Ketumala is to the west. O best among sages, Ilavrita is between these two. In the east there is the grove named Chaitraratha, and in the south Gandhamadana. In the west there is said to be Vaibhraja, and in the north the one named Nandana. Now Bibek Debra makes a footnote here saying, each of the mountains Mandara, Gandhamadana, Vipula and Suparshva has a grove and a lake. This is usually stated as Chaitraratha in Mandara, Nandana in Gandhamadana, Vaibhraja in Vipula, Savitra in Suparshva. There are 4 lakes that are always enjoyed by the gods: Arunodaya, Mahabhadra, Asitoda and Manasa. Manasa lake, Manoshorobar, Mansarovar. The mountains Shantavan, Chakrakumbha, Kurari, Malyavan, Vaikanka and others are like filaments, like little threads on Meru's eastern flank. The mountains Trikuta, Shishira, Patanga, Ruchaka, Nishada and others are like filaments on Meru's southern flank. The mountains Shikivasa, Vaidurya, Kapila, Gandhamadana, Janudhi and so on are like filaments on Meru's western flank. So Gandhamadana is to the southwest of Meru. These are just after Meru and they are stationed as if they form Meru's stomach. The mountains Shankhakuta, Rishabha, Hamsa, Naga, Kalanjara and others are like filaments on Meru's northern flank. So it has to be in China, Mongolia or the Xinjiang region, which is why it's often considered Xinjiang province is also part of the Akhand Bharat regions, which is why there's a cave in Xinjiang region which is known as a Buddhist cave. There inside you can see thousands of year old Shiva and Parvati paintings inside the cave, but they are drawn like as if they hail from China and Mongolia, because gods and goddesses are always sculpted and painted according to how the artist sees people around them. So if you see those paintings of Shiva and Parvati, you will think Shiva and Parvati were Chinese, but they have the moon on top of his head. But the rest of it you can figure out that that's obviously Shiva and Parvati, but that's in Xinjiang province in China. Which is why Tibet has to be in the Hindu civilization, which is why Buddhism as a separate religion, completely different from Hinduism, is a joke. O Indras among Brahmanas, Brahma's famous, divine and great city is on Meru's summit and extends for 14,000 yojanas. Around it, in the 8 directions and sub-directions, there are the famous excellent cities of Indra and the other guardians of the worlds. Emerging from Vishnu's feet and flooding the lunar disk, Ganga descends from heaven. Where is it? Gomukh Ice Cave. Ganga descends from heaven and flows all around Brahma's city. All these places are that's why called Dev Bhumi. And all those places, all the cold, snowy places are actually considered to be heaven. Kailash was basically heaven. Having descended there, it flows in 4 directions. In due order, they are Sita, Alakananda, Chakshu and Bhadra, these rivers. And remember something, just because there is a heaven, that if you do good things then you'll reach there, maybe you'll become the most revered, respected person, what they mean metaphorically by going to heaven, does not mean that there's a equally bad place called hell. Because what I've found out from Brahma Purana is in the very next or the chapter next to it is a chapter on what is blasphemy, what are the things that you are not allowed to do, and what does Narak mean. Narak is not hell. Narak is not a place underground where you burn to death or you are tortured for the rest of your afterlife. Narak is a punishment. That, okay, you did this, here's your punishment, get on with your life. Narak is just an incident that happens to a wrongdoer. Towards the east and in the firmament, Sita flows from one mountain to another mountain. It passes through Bhadrashva, the Varsha towards the east, and flows into the ocean. O best among Brahmanas! In a similar way, Alakananda flows towards the south through Bharata, divides itself into 7 streams and flows into the ocean. Chakshu flows through all the western mountains, flows through the Varsha towards the west known as Ketumala and flows into the ocean, maybe Gujarat, Pakistan region. O best among Brahmanas! In a similar way, Bhadra flows towards the north, passes through the mountains and Uttar Kuru and meets the ocean in the north. Now, what is this ocean in the north? As far I can guess, might be Caspian Sea, or maybe some lake that was there, it doesn't remain anymore, but Caspian Sea might be a great possible explanation, because if the Hindu civilization was that far stretched out, and they don't exactly know, because they don't have a satellite image of course, that whether they are going straight or they have turned a little, but that might be easily judged from stars of course. Caspian Sea seems to be a plausible explanation of what the ocean might have been in the north. Malyavan and Gandhamadana extend up to the mountains Nila and Nishadha. Meru is in between these two, in the shape of a pericarp. Bharata, Ketumala, Bhadrashva and Kuru are like petals of the mountain of the world. They are outside the mountains that form the boundary. Jathara and Devakuta are the 2 mountains that constitute the boundary. Between Nila and Nishada, they extend from the south to the north. Gandhamadana and Kailasha stretch from the west to the east. We obviously know this, so even if Gandhamadana is in Uttarakhand to Kailash is west to east. Up to the oceans for a length of 80,000 yojanas. Up to the oceans. So what might be the ocean to the right? According to me, it's South China Sea, because near South China Sea are the regions of Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, all of which were a part of the Hindu civilization. So it makes complete sense. Nishada and Paryatra are mountains that constitute a boundary, stretching from the south to the north between Nila and Nishada. They are established on the east and the west of Meru. Trishira and Jarudhi are mountains that constitute a boundary to the north. They stretch from the ocean on the east to the ocean on the west. So see, they keep talking about this term boundary. So they were aware of their land. It's not like the British made our country. They were aware what is the boundary, because beyond that the Chinese civilization begins, and they are not claiming that the entire world was Hindu civilization or something. They had a very specific, concise, precise vision of what their land is and what's the extent. Chinese civilization is where their boundaries are. So it's not like now we are making up random geographical conclusions to say this was India, that was India. There are very specific descriptions here. They stretch from the ocean on the east to the ocean on the west. O Brahmanas, I have thus spoken about the mountains that constitute boundaries. They are established along Meru's stomach in 4 directions, 2 mountains in each direction. There are mountains that are like filaments, which means small threads, in 4 directions of Meru. O Brahmanas, these are Shitanta and the others are extremely pleasant. Shitanta meaning a cold place, and the others Shitanta and the others, and are extremely pleasant. There are valleys in these mountains frequented by Siddhas and Charanas. There the groves and the cities are extremely beautiful. O supreme among sages, excellent abodes exist there for Lakshmi, Vishnu, Agni, Surya and Indra of the gods, frequented by men and kinnaras. Night and day, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Daityas and Danavas always sport in the beautiful valleys in those mountains. As far as I know, the Kantara movie that shows the Kola Jatra, those people who do those performances, I think that dance form or that jatra is also known as yakshagana. I think they are known as yakshagana plays or something. So here we have yakshas. Another thing that I found interesting here was yakshas, rakshasas, daityas, danavas always sport in the beautiful valleys in those mountains. So how are they roaming around playing sport? Playing sport meaning obviously hanging out, pulling an apple or hunting basically. How are the so-called bad people like daityas and danavas, rakshasas hanging out with gandharvas, yakshas, etc.? So this might be a description of the times before a group of people from the Indian civilization were kicked out, who then went on to live in the entire European regions. That's how the out of India migration theory may have happened, bringing out Sanskrit from here, which is why today in Estonia, Latvia regions, Sanskrit inspired languages are spoken. Okay, that's why the river goddess Danu in Rig Veda, different places in all along Europe are named after her. Danu, Dani, Danube, etc. And then they went to Europe, slaughtered the entire population, only killed the men, impregnated the women, and formed what is today's Celtic white European culture. Their skin also gradually became white. You need to check out this entire context of this story in a video by Abhijit Chavda. They are known as the Yamnaya tribe. Now, I'm guessing those Yamnaya tribes might have been one of these Danavas or Daityas or Rakshasas. Because remember, in Celtic mythology, they have this concept of a banished land, that some people were banished from other places and then they came here. That checks out with the story of the Yamnaya tribe and their languages and their Rigvedic goddess of Danu. Celts say that their goddess of river is Danu, but the only reason there's no academic consensus on this is because a lot of academics still believe in the Aryan invasion theory. But what they do have an agreement on is that the Aryans, the Hindus, Brahmins, who they think came from the steppes, they say the Yamnaya tribe also came from the steppes. So there is agreement about that. Can you believe that? So the thing that has been disproven by other archaeologists and people like Dr. Neeraj Rai, etc., that no, they didn't come from the steppes, they were here always. So if we disprove the steppe argument and say here were the ancestors of Hindus, Brahmins, whatever, then Yamnayas also have to come from here, and that checks out. Daityas, Danavas, Rakshasas may not have always been just evil bad people. They did some bad things in definitely a pre-Harappan era. Then they were kicked out and those stories remained here. We are talking about very old incidents and occurrings and phenomena. This gives me goosebumps. O Brahmanas, these regions are said to be like heaven on earth, with the residences of those who are devoted to dharma. The performers of wicked deeds can never go there, not even in 100 births. O Brahmanas, in Bhadrashva, the illustrious Vishnu exists in the form of Hayashira. In Ketumala, he is in the form of Varaha. Ketumala is more to the west, Afghanistan area. There, they are saying Vishnu exists as Varaha in the form of a pig, and, well, coincidentally, they don't like to eat pigs. I don't know what conclusion we can draw from here. In Bharata, he is in the form of a Kurma. In Kuru, the eternal Govinda exists in the form of Matsya. He exists everywhere in his Vishwarupa form. Hari is the Lord of everything. O Brahmanas, he is the foundation of everything. He is in the Atman of everything. O supreme among Brahmanas, in the 8 Varshas, Kimpurusha and the others, there is no grief, exertion, anxiety or fear of hunger. The subjects are always healthy, without any fear. They do not suffer from any kind of misery. The lifespan is fixed at 10 or 12,000 years. Now their measurements of time was obviously different. That's why this might be a metaphor, or this might, even if it's literally, it does not have to be years as we count them today. O Brahmanas, the inhabitants do not suffer from hunger and thirst or other feelings associated with the earth. In those regions, there is no conception of Krita, Treta and the other yugas. O supreme among Brahmanas, there are 7 Kulachalas in each of those Varshas. Hundreds of rivers flow there.
Jaya Jaya He महिषासुरम्